everyone, I want to tell you my story of my battle with weight. It all started when I was 12 years old and I overheard a boy tell a bunch of other kids at school in junior high that I had a massive behind. Now that one statement, those two words, was enough to cause me to have a terrible self-distorted image. That led me into being so obsessed about becoming skinny that all I would do is anything actually to be skinny. And so I would either only eat a few saltine crackers a day to the point of creating a perfect process of purging. I would come home from school and we would have family dinner, and then afterwards every single night I would go into the bathroom, I would turn the bath water on, and I would make myself puke. Now I did this over and over again as much as I possibly could, to the point of tracking it in my diary and telling my best friend and confiding in her, hoping she wouldn't tell anybody. But she told my track coach, which in reality was a blessing, because he told my mother, who then made me quit track if I did not stop puking. And so of course I love track so much I decided to quit, doing that. And so then I stopped for a while, but I still obsessed about my weight, and went into high school, and I would just eat like saltines at lunch and try to skip as many meals as possible, thinking I was, doing the right thing, and it was all good since I wasn't puking anymore. But then I got introduced to some nasty chocolate laxatives. A friend of mine in high school, she had lost like 30 pounds in a month, and she told me about it. So I jumped on that bandwagon for a while, thinking, oh, if those would help me get skinny. In reality, I was already skinny. I didn't have any issues with weight, but in my mind, I thought I did, and it was all because of those two words. And so my mom must have knew I was still struggling with this, because she made me sit down and watch an Oprah show, and it was about a gal that was struggling with anorexia and bulimia, and Oprah was telling her she was going to die if she did not stop her eating disorder. And so that convicted me and scared me enough to stop doing what I was doing and obsessing over my weight. But then I went the complete opposite route. You see, I got married and had kids, and I have 4 beautiful children, and every 3 years had a baby. And I just wasn't concerned about my weight at all. And so many other things were going on in my life at that time that I just didn't care about me. I didn't take the time to even, think about being healthy or anything. And so I gained weight over and over again. And then I would try to lose it. I would try the world's way of losing weight by, doing some of these quick fix diet programs, and I would lose the weight, but then I would gain it back and some. I'd gain back shame and regret and all those other feelings that, are associated with failure, And so I kept gaining. And then it got to a point where in January of 2010, I weighed myself, and I was 276 pounds, and I was a size 26 in jeans. And throughout 2010, I had many different things that occur. And so a few of those would be that, one, I was almost crippled. I couldn't get off my feet for more than 5 minutes. I was in severe pain. Another time, my son came home from school, and his friends were making fun of his mother, calling her an elephant, and he would cry, but he would stick up for me, and I was so proud of him, but my heart was broken. And then another time, I went to a carnival that year with my kids, and my 3-year-old daughter, she wanted to get on a roller coaster, and I couldn't fit on the roller coaster with her, and so they made us, get off, and she cried because she was so excited to get on that kiddie roller coaster. And then there was a time that I went to a garage sale that summer, and I got pointed to the maternity section, and I wasn't pregnant, so that was humiliating. And then throughout that year, I also, anytime we'd go to a movie, I would not let anybody sit on either side of me because I felt claustrophobic. And that was because I was so big. And what's funny is even a couple years after I lost all my weight, I still didn't want people to sit next to me. I was a lot smaller, but I felt big still. It was weird. But the final occurrence happened when I went to a Boy Scout camp, and I was taking my son to it, and my friends were with me, and we had to go on a tour of the camp. And there was this little hill, almost like a ditch, that we went down and back up, and my heart started pounding so heavily and so fast, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack, literally. And I cried in front of the other parents, and I kept thinking in my mind, why is everybody else not like, you know, like panting, and why is everybody else having a heart attack almost, or not having a heart attack, sorry. But I felt like I was. And I called my husband. I wanted to go home, and he made me stick it out for the whole weekend because my son wanted me there. And but that was an aha moment for me. That was a moment when I realized that I needed to transform both internal and external. And my spirit was crushed, my heart was broken, and I needed the Lord to save me. And I remember one day calling the insurance company, wanting to get the surgery, the bariatric surgery, so that I could lose the weight. And I remember them saying, not approving it, and saying, no ma'am, we can't cover this. And I remember that night crying and crying and crying, crying out to the Lord, and telling him, I can't do this no more. I need your help, Lord. And what do you want me to do? Because everything I've done over the years, all the other ways that I've tried to lose weight have not worked for me. And I can't try again the same way and regain more weight, because I'm about crippled, literally. And I was scared I was not going to be able to walk again, or that I was going to die. And so that night, the Lord, you know, he said to me, you're going to have to take my way. I knew it. He just said, you're going to have to take my way. You're going to have to let me be in control, not you, because your way has not been working over the last few years, and you're going to have faith in me. And I knew that was the answer, because you see, in the past few years, I had not had a relationship with the Lord. I had left him out, and I think that was, I know that was what was missing in my life. I know that I was empty and I was craving him, but when I was having those cravings, I was numbing myself with food. And so anyway, I decided to act, and I had a vision this time for wanting to lose the weight. You know, I knew that if I could lose the weight and show my transformation to others, that may help others lose the weight and gain God. And I also wanted to show my kids that anything is possible with God. And so I focused on not only physical nourishment, but also spiritual nourishment. And I surrendered my control of weight and my control over food and gave it to God. I've tried the world's way, the path of frustration, and it always ends up that I'm frustrated. And my motive was always an external reason. It was always for temporary reason, such as looking good at a reunion or a wedding, and it was never for the right reason. And so this time I had to choose a different path, and because I knew what I had tried before wasn't working. And so I chose the path of fulfillment. I chose to take God's path. And instead of my motive being on external reasons, my motive was on eternal reasons. And I started to view my body as God's temple. And so 3 things that he taught me during my weight loss journey was that I needed to focus on the physical. I needed to move my body, his temple. I needed to focus on being mindful of what foods I put into my body. And then psychological, I needed to understand why it was I was eating, what were the reasons I was eating, what was emotional reasons, and address those reasons. And then the spiritual part of it was that I needed to get my relationship right with him, as well as understand that this weight battle that I was experiencing and have been still today it's a spiritual battle. The enemy, Satan, does not want me to be healthy, nor does he want you to be healthy, because if we are healthy, then we will live out God's purpose for our life to its fullest extent. And if we're not healthy, we're languishing, and we're gonna become ill and die at a sooner age than what we were supposed to die at. So with that being said, he helped me conquer all three of these, and he taught me that I needed to trust in him. So the first couple of years I used Weight Watchers for the portion control. I will say that when I hit my 100 pounds at a Weight Watchers meeting, they said, what was the one thing that you can tell the group that was the reason for your success? And I said it was that I needed to renew my mind, that I did renew my mind and get right with God. And I told them to go look up Romans 12:1 and 2. And so I did eventually quit Weight Watchers because I didn't want to have to maintain for the rest of my life using their program. I wanted to be able to try to maintain my weight loss without being stuck on any specific diet method. And so I learned to concentrate on distinguishing the difference between head hunger and stomach hunger, and identifying when I was eating for reasons such as being angry, lonely, tired, depressed, and when I was experiencing those emotions, filling up spiritually on that and turning to God's word instead of filling up with food and numbing my emotions. And he taught me to focus on him, and by doing so, by focusing on him instead of food, my heart and my mind changed. And it's a process. It did not happen overnight. I had to learn to produce more fruit in my life. You see, when we become Christians, we get the fruit of the Spirit, and the fruit of the Spirit is love, and it's joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And we have it there in us, but we just got to learn to use it. And so I learned each of these, and I learned how to develop more of it in my life. For example, I learned how to love my body no matter what size it was. For joy, I learned that joy is strength, and I learned to have joy in the midst of suffering and trials. And I learned to develop peace and be content, and understand that he is fighting for me. He's fighting this battle for me. And for patience, I had to realize that this is a lifelong battle, and that I did not gain the weight overnight, nor will I lose the weight overnight. And so patience was a huge one for me. Kindness is huge too. I had to learn to talk kind words and think kind words about myself. And I had to be kind to my body also, and understand that some things that I was doing was not being kind. So, and then goodness is huge. I was so angry at God for so long, and it wasn't his fault. I was thinking I was angry at him because why did he allow me to be so heavy, and why was he allowing me to have to deal with this battle with weight? And when other people, I envied other people that didn't struggle with weight issues at all. And I then realized that God was not the enemy, and I realized who the real enemy was. And then I realized that as I filled up on all these fruit all this fruit, this love, the joy, the peace, the patience, the kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, as I've learned to develop that in my life, I filled up on his goodness, and the weight came off. And faithfulness was huge too. So I would always say, I have faith. I have faith. I believe in God. But I never realized that having faith is actually about taking action, taking steps of faith. And that's it, taking action. And so that was huge for me, So it's not just I have faith, or I believe. It's actually meaning you have to do something to show that you have faith in him. So another one, the gentleness. I had to learn to be gentle with myself. There are many times that I gave in to temptations, and I had to learn to not focus on negative thinking and let the enemy attack my mind, saying, oh, you gave in to temptation, so just give up. You're going to fail. And be gentle with myself when I did give in to temptation. Self-control, of course, that's huge. Self-control, becoming disciplined in everything I did. Discipline in reading the Bible, discipline in, portion control, discipline in, not thinking about negative thoughts, and just discipline in everything, and understanding that everything is good if it's done in moderation. And then lastly, I had to learn, and I still do, to bounce and be resilient and persevere. And that this is a lifelong battle. This is something that I am still struggling with on a daily basis. Actually, not even a daily basis, a minute by minute basis. And I also understand that this battle is what draws me near to God. This is my mountain that I will always have to climb. I am so grateful for this battle, because you see, by me having to fight this weight battle, I draw nearer to him. I can tell when I start to gain, and when I start to let go and not focus on him, I start to gain weight, and I start to not care about certain things. And it's something that as I start to gain weight, I realize that I'm not focusing on him, and I'm not disciplining myself, if that makes sense. So my life is good now. My life is really good. I'm more confident than I was 6 years ago. I'm not hiding behind my shell, if that makes sense. And I'm free from my eating disorders. I'm free from the food bondage and the emotional bondage of food. Again, I'm still fighting daily, and I'm grateful to God for that battle. And I encourage you, if you have not signed up to read my complete story and to preview Fighting Fat with Fearless Faith's program, to do so in the form below. Just leave your email address and hit subscribe, and I will email you my story along with a free preview of the Fighting Fat with Fearless Faith program. It can take between 10 and 12 weeks to do, depending on how fast you are, but it can be done also in a small group study format. And it's a program that will change your life. You'll focus more on gaining a better relationship with God, and as you do so, as you work on your internal self, your external self will also manifest with weight loss, most likely. So, or better health anyway. So anyway, just wanted to tell you my story, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me at info@valiant, VALIANT, woman.com. And you have a great week. God bless.